Hello, I'm Lori Joe Vest, and if it's 10 o'clock on Tuesday, it's time for Pop Speed Digital Marketing's Hot Take Tuesday. Today, we're going to talk about video. I'm Lori Joe Vest, and I am the founder of Pop Speed Digital Marketing LLC, and I have with me one of our social media specialists and our first employee, Kylie Metcalf. Hi, Kylie.
Hi, everybody.
So we love to talk about social media. It's in our blood. I mean, I look at it as, part of my social life, and I'm a big social person, so I just absolutely love it. And we're always willing to come here and share the secrets that we learn every day as the algorithms change and new things happen on the different social channels. We use Hot Take Tuesday as a way to share those things with you. But today we're covering something that you may know already, but you may not realize how incredibly important it's become. And that is video content. Kylie, tell us what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, so I think Lori said it best. It's one of the, I would say, longest, most ongoing trends we've seen in social algorithms pretty much across the board for years now. Video content has outperformed stills, carousels on LinkedIn, PDFs, pretty much all other competing types of content. Videos just outperform them.
Mhm.
However, not all videos. So today we're going to talk about doing video content the right way. So we're going to jump into it and tell you a little bit about, video content outperforms, as we said, and a little bit about what that means and why that is, and things like that. Why we don't think that's really going to change anytime soon. And
Mm-mm.
then we're going to jump into the fact that not all video content is good, what we mean by that, and kind of the difference between what's good and what's bad, what's going to work, what's not going to work. And then cover some of the right ways and wrong ways because there are a lot of each of those.
Yeah, lots and lots. Overall, video is the way to go. We're even seeing in some of the real technical and engineering oriented spaces where they like to show graphics or text messages that they will put that over instead of just a still photo. They'll
Mm-hmm.
put it over a video.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these stock image houses are now selling video clips, video backgrounds that you can use for your social so that your asset is seen by the algorithm as a video instead of a still.
Mm-hmm.
Tip number 1. What else, Kylie?
I was gonna say, I think in so many ways too, it matters the way that you engage with your audience, right? On social,
Mhm.
particularly as a brand, videos are more engaging. They make you look like you put significantly more effort into what you're putting out because I
Mhm.
mean, from our side of things, it's not a whole bunch more effort to put together a solid video. It's definitely more, but when you're doing it the right way, when you have a rhythm, it's not that hard to
Mhm.
put that extra mile in, to make your audience feel like you really care about what it is that they're getting out of your content,
Mhm.
and they're ultimately just better at storytelling,
Yes.
whether you're using heavy on the graphics or still images. Consider the difference between that and a video, and how much more your audience can really pull from and learn from and become informed from, whether it's a conversational video or the example Lori gave, just a little text chain where you get a little bit more text in there about what it is that you're trying to have them take from your content. It ultimately just creates this more unified bridge between
Mhm.
brand and consumer. And to us, I think the possibilities are really endless, with video content and how to
Mhm.
do it in a way that your audience will respond to, and that's why it outperforms pretty much everything else.
Yeah. And one of the things I would add here is I spent 30 years of my career in the video business. And we used to constantly tell our clients, no talking heads, no talking heads. Make sure it's just not all talking heads. And what has happened, fast forward 20 years, and now, believe it or not, talking heads are one of the most engaging types of content. And that's because social media, you'll hear me preach this over and over again. The social in the phrase social media has a lot of meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Take that word seriously. It's people are not on social media to look at a billboard, but
Mm-hmm.
they will watch a video of someone who's really passionate about something,
Absolutely.
and telling a great story. They'll watch that video and they'll stop in their scroll and see what that video is covering and is it of interest. And you can't say that about a billboard style social graphic.
Exactly.
So talking heads, believe it or not, it's easy to do. It makes a huge difference in your engagement levels. We have a client that's very engineering focused, and you would think that the engineers would be really interested in the technology, and they are. But if you look at the most engaging content, the most click throughs, the most downloads, they have people in them. The ones that have video of people talking about the project get the most downloads. So it really is kind of an interesting change from the old days of talking heads being horrible to now talking heads are something that's actually desirable, because your people, your founder, people who use your product, your big fans, can talk about your brand in a way that really gets through to the consumer, human to human. So I'll get off my soapbox now. Can you tell I
I
feel
love
very strongly about that? And I'd
Yep.
also add, Kylie, it doesn't have to be hard. There's
Exactly.
all kinds of platforms out there, just like the one we're using, where
Hmm.
you can invite someone on, have a conversation, let them tell you their stories, talking to you, not talking to a camera and
Yep.
reading a script, but talking to someone else and telling their story. You take that, you cut that into a piece, and the people viewing that video feel like that person's talking to them. It creates a
Exactly.
really nice connection. So,
Exactly.
what else you got?
I think another point there is that it's so much easier to in the talking head example of solid video content. I think it's so much easier to really like exude passion, whether it's for your brand or for your industry or for whatever
Mhm.
it is you're trying to sell, or for us in this sort of format, what it is we do every single day. It's so much easier to really relay how important something is or how passionate you are about it, or things like that convey to your audience how much it means to
Mhm.
you and your brand when you're in a conversational format.
Yep.
So in like this instance, me and Lori can go back later on after we finish this live event, cut either, Lori's soapbox, as she called it, cut that into its own video because we're talking about it, right?
Yeah.
She's not just talking at a camera alone, and not to say that
Reading
that
a
never works.
script. Yeah, reading a
Exactly. And
script.
not to say that that doesn't work and that doesn't have its time and place, but prioritizing conversation
Mhm.
makes that a lot easier.
Absolutely. It doesn't have to be expensive. It does
Yeah.
not. And if you don't have a big budget for a promotional spend, talking head videos are one of the best ways to get your engagement up.
Yeah.
They really are. So, anything else under this one, Kylie, or should we move on to what not to
What
do?
not to do? Let's do it. Because
Ooh.
I think the talking heads thing is a great example where there's a right way and there's a wrong way, right?
Mhm. Yep.
So, we've seen it a lot on LinkedIn in particular. I don't know if your head's going where mine is, Lori, but there's one in particular that comes to mind, and it's it's difficult to, without kind of putting somebody on the spot, just one example versus another, outlay all of the ways that one talking head is good and one talking head is bad.
Yeah.
But there are some key things to figure out, and it all boils down to keeping in mind that yes, while video content outperforms graphics, still images, carousels, whatever the case may be, there's also a way for video content to be off-putting.
Yes.
And some easy things to keep in mind when you're putting together a video are, to really, whether it's investing or in a person or a technology or a software, make sure that the editing is solid. You don't want it to be
Mhm.
terribly choppy. You don't want it to look too polished or too jumpy from clip to clip and too edited. You don't
Mhm.
want your camera quality to be poor, because then it's just like, oh, okay, that thing that we said earlier about how it makes, video content makes it look to your audience like you put that extra mile in
Mhm.
to engaging with them. Poor quality is a great way to kind of do the opposite with
Yeah.
videos, right? You don't want your video content to be too short or too long. Ultimately, we have about I think it's the first 7 seconds of a video. It's 2 to 7 seconds is how
Yes.
much time you have to really grab somebody with video content. So that's not a long enough video in terms of if you're really trying to speak with your audience and communicate with them. That's
Hmm.
not long enough. That's really how long you have to get their attention. Too long is also a problem on
Yeah.
platforms like I think you have a bit more wiggle room on somewhere like YouTube, where people know what they're getting into if they're watching a longer form video. But
Hmm.
Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, you really want to keep it short. We often recommend like maybe a max of 2 minutes, but normally around 90 seconds is that
Yeah.
sweet spot. There's a way to not be very engaging too. If you're just talking at your camera and like Lori said earlier, if it's scripted or if you're just very monotone with your words and not really enthusiastic about what it is
Hmm.
you're talking about, you're going to bore your audience further into their scroll. And
I would
spending time.
also I
Oh
would
yeah.
also suggest that you don't, if your story that you're going to tell or the point you're going to make takes a long setup,
Hmm.
no.
Yeah.
People will not stick with a video for more than 3 seconds.
Yep.
So when you think of your setup, if it requires like, oh, here's 3 or 4 sentences of why I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you,
Yeah.
that won't fly. That will not get the engagement that you want from the video. However, if you were to say something in the first 3 seconds, like 3 reasons I will never go to Costco again,
Yeah.
something, and it's totally unrelated to Costco, or, something that, find something about what you're going to talk about that has a hook.
Yeah.
Here's why I hate Microsoft Outlook.
Hmm.
Here's why you should never show up late 5 minutes for a meeting or you'll lose your career. I mean, you can say things that have a little twist on what your main message is, but get attention and use that as your hook. And maybe that's text, maybe that's, the super on the first couple of frames, but
Hmm.
something that will pull them in. And listicles do it. I mean,
Yeah.
listicles, 3 reasons, 10 ways, all that kind of thing. They really do pull in for videos as well. If you can say
Yeah.
something a little bit shocking at the
Yep.
beginning and keep it short, you'll get more. If you're going to put up your standard corporate video
Yep.
that has been approved by the
Little
CEO and everyone
commercial.
else to be played at trade shows, it
Yeah.
will not fly. People
Yeah.
just keep going because they're not there to see your
Absolutely.
promotion,
Yeah.
right?
I think that's another really good point too that brings us into authenticity, right? So, we don't want to be too scripted. We don't want to be too polished, too corporate, too formal, anything like that. Because again, you'll hear us say it probably every week. Social media should be social, right? And
Mhm.
nobody's really going there to be sold to. Nobody's really going there to, see your commercial that could be on TV. It's not the point. On the flip side to that, there's also a level of randomness with videos or veering off topic or
Mhm.
things of that nature where of course if you're having a conversation like we are now, some other things are going to come up with us on Hot Take Tuesday every single week. We get into these conversations and have another thought that makes sense and ties back into our point, but by veering too far off topic or going too random, you lose
Mhm.
people because
You
attention
do.
spans are short for all of us.
Mhm.
So there's a really steady balance to find with, maybe an outline is a good idea. And your outline, as Lori just said, with those really gripping headlines, it's almost like writing a blog, right? If
Mhm.
you give yourself talking points and you give yourself that shocking or really interesting way to start off your video, and then
Mhm.
kind of have a direction of where you want the conversation to go, that's one thing. A full, complete, down to the word script is another. And
Yep.
there's a way to meet in the middle.
Yep. And I would think of it almost like a podcast. Like when you're
Mhm.
listening to a podcast, you're often just listening to a conversation. And they're really engaging, which is one of the reasons people listen to podcasts. Now there is a thought leader that I won't mention because I don't want to. I think she's probably better now, but there's a really important thought leader in the business space that has a lot of television cred, And she started a podcast, and I was really excited to listen to it. And the first couple episodes sounded like she was reading from a script. It wasn't her. It was words on paper that she was reciting.
Mhm.
And I listened to 2 and I never listened to it again, and it's been 2 or 3 years. She might be better now, I hope so, but that's a mistake you don't want to make. You don't want to come at your video with awkward scripted messaging. You wanna be authentic, you wanna think about what you would say to a customer, a friend, a coworker, and speak that way. So, and also, share what's going on in your lives. If
Yeah.
you do video, show people behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Show what
Absolutely.
happens behind the scenes. If somebody brings their baby to work because they couldn't have babysitter got sick and there's some cute little thing going on, take a picture of that, share that.
Yeah.
Make your company and your brand and your product human. Because that's really the secret of social media, if you ask me. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
I got on my soapbox a lot during this Hot Take Tuesday.
We could talk about videos forever. I know we could.
I
It's like
know.
when I was putting together this deck, it was very much like, oh my gosh, well, we could say that, we could say that. And I'm like, we'll talk about it and it'll go where it's
There's a
going to go
lot.
because
Yeah.
there's so much we could say about video content. We've seen the best of it and the worst of it and everything in
Well,
between. So,
and I'll end this with a little story that I think is really interesting. I was on a call with someone I worked with in the video industry back when it was a really big deal, right? And if you went in to interview, we worked at Ford Motor Company. If we went in to interview the CEO of Ford Motor Company, we had crates, we had big camera packages and lighting equipment and an audio guy and 5 people, and we'd go up to the top of world headquarters and spend half a day shooting the executive. um Earlier this week I shot, no, it was last week I shot the chairman of a global organization using my Pixel 9, and then I shot another segment later on in the week with my Pixel 9. And we'll bring those in and we'll use those on social media
mhm.
because it's authentic, it's what people are used to seeing, and it's so easy to do. So we'll keep you posted on how that goes because it's shocking to me. I was talking to the person I worked with in the early 2000s, late 90s, and I was almost embarrassed to tell her what I was doing because back in the day that would have been unheard of, and the quality, we would have just been appalled at the quality of what we're getting. But in social, the quality is not what matters as much as the content. Got
Yeah.
to have your audio, got to have your video. It's got to look pretty good. But if it looks like someone shot it on their phone and it's
Yeah.
casual, it does
Yeah.
better. It performs better. So
Exactly.
that's just how it works. So, anyway, again, we could go on all day. If you have questions or things you'd like to know about audio and video and how to use video on social media, Kylie and I are here for you. We are both open networkers on LinkedIn. You can also visit our website at popspeeddigital.com to learn more about us. And we will see you soon in another LinkedIn Live. Take care.
Bye, everybody.